Welcome to the first ever episode of the Cut a Trail podcast, a program dedicated to lifting up the voices of changemakers and trailblazers across rural America. In bi-weekly episode releases, we'll explore complicated topics like poverty, resource deficiency, feelings of belonging, and much more by showcasing the most positive and successful examples of rural community that we can find. I'm Colton Wolfe, your grateful host, and I'm proud to be a native Appalachian who was born, raised, and still resides in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, in a tiny little town that doesn't even have a stoplight. If you're like me, then you know that most people want to pity us for some reason or another. But the truth is, we've always had everything we needed right here at home: family, community, faith, and a work ethic I'm convinced is almost impossible to find anywhere else in America. My mission in this work is to remind our viewers and anyone who might listen that rural America is far from the backward and suffering wasteland it's often portrayed to be. We've got our share of problems, just like every other place on the planet, but we're actually quite the opposite of the mainstream perception. We're dedicated and capable and sure of ourselves. We're resilient and full of conviction. We're kind and quick to help our neighbors. We're a community, one that transcends arbitrary lines on a map and unites a considerable portion of the American populace. In episode one, we kick off our series with an incredibly inspiring woman named Tricha Wadsworth. Originally from New York, Tricia moved to Virginia several years ago, eventually making her way to Page County, Virginia. Join me as we discuss Tricia's solution to feeding local families in need through her grassroots operation, Venison for All, and all the amazing ways it's positively impacting our local community. Her personal experiences with food insecurity, her deep faith, and her kind heart are plainly evident as we discuss the complicated issues of poverty, rural resilience, and much more. You'll find that this podcast is far from perfect, but it was such a fun and uplifting experience for my team and I to create. You can expect a glitch here or there. We appreciate your patience, and we totally invite you to laugh at our silly mistakes as we explore Trisha's perspectives and Venison for All's great work here in our community. We look forward to building better products for our viewers as we continue on this journey. With that being said, it is with deep gratitude that I welcome you to episode one of the Cut a Trail podcast: Trisha Wadsworth and Venison for All. I'm Colton Wolfe. I was born and raised here in Stanley. Have always felt a very close kinship to this area. It was always very important for me to do something to give back to my community, which is one of the reasons I was so dead set on my business be here, to employ people that are from here, because there's nothing lacking in the ability of the people who live here, right? And I think that there are larger themes in rural America that can benefit from all the good things that we see that happen here in Page County. So that's kind of the whole purpose of this podcast, to amplify good, awesome, amazing things like what you're doing. Venison for All and Venison for the Hungry. So to get us started off, can you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Well, my name is Tricha Wadsworth. I'm originally from upstate New York in the Adirondacks, not the city.
Ooh.
And it's just the same thing. I'm the same person here that I was there. I love to give back. I love to help people. I love to teach people new things. But I was always drawn to Virginia, so I knew that's where I would end up, in Virginia. So I moved here 5 years ago. 4 years I spent in Front Royal.
Okay.
And then the city just got too big for me.
Front Royal is too much for you?
Yeah, it went from like
the traffic is crazy.
14,000 people to 28,000 people. Yeah. I might be wrong with the numbers, but there's a lot of people. And yeah, the traffic is just, but I was there for 4 years and I just kind of felt locked down. So I just ventured out, and Luray is so beautiful. The mountains call you.
Yeah, they do.
The people are so nice. There's a lot here, and there's also a lot of poverty here. And this is known as a tourist town. So yeah. I knew I could do good here and look after the people who are forgotten.
I want to talk about your work, Venison for All. So tell me about it.
So how I got started, I guess we'll start there. I ended a 5-year relationship. And of course, there's a transition period. And I'm not too proud to say, at one point, I had to go to the food pantry. Things are just hard.
Yeah.
And I've never had to do that before. So it took a lot to even get to that point to ask someone else for help. I've always been the person that can figure it out. You know, there's always a way. But as you said earlier, when you get in a spot, sometimes you don't see the light. You don't have that hope. You lose it. So I went to a local pantry, and of course they put a whole bunch of boxes together, put it in the back of the truck, and I drove home. I didn't look, you know, I drove home. I bring all this stuff inside, and all the fruits and vegetables were rotten, not edible. You know, I couldn't even make banana bread. They were that rotten. There's canned goods in there that were out of date. And then I didn't get any meat, which was the biggest part, you know. A lot of people who struggle with poverty, if you walk around Walmart or Food Lion or grocery store, period, and you see, you know, that they're struggling, do you ever see them put any meat in their cart? A lot of times you see them put junk food, and there's a stigma around that. You know, look, their cart's just full of junk food. Well, that's because it's cheap and it fills your stomach. A lot of people don't eat meat. There's people that I've helped that say, I only get steak once a month. One steak once a month. And there's something really wrong with that.
And it's probably shared.
And it is shared. So anyways, I brought a prop, and I'll show you what meat I did get from the food pantry. So I got this bag, and it's a bag of beef knuckle bones. That's what I got from the food pantry. And when I pulled that out of the box, I just thought, is this what they're giving our elderly? Is this what they're giving our single moms that have 2-3 toddlers running around? I can make a lot of food, but I was stumped at that. I'm like, what am I going to do with that? It just looks like a bunch of fat. And it really hit me. It hit me hard. It felt like my situation just got worse, because now what are we going to eat? You can only go to the food pantry, once a month?
Yeah.
Or you could travel 30 minutes away in Front Royal and go to another food pantry, but it took all I had just to get to that one. So I went to church. I prayed about it a lot, you know, trying to find the answers. What should I do? And God put it on my heart. He's like, you could do something about this. You know how to cut up venison. It's hunting season. Put a post on Facebook. See if somebody would be willing to donate their harvest. Yeah. I was once a hunter. I don't hunt anymore. I'm disabled. But I was once a hunter. And y'all know when hunting season opens, that first harvest, you're excited, you know, you're happy, you got food that you're going to put in the freezer. So sometimes it's hard to be like, that was my first deer and I'm going to donate it to some girl I never knew. And who knows what she's going to do with it. You know, right. A lot of people have trust issues, but I did. I put that post up and I got a deer and I just started processing it. Of course, it comes field dressed as preferred. I can do that, but I don't really have a place to throw
get
all
rid
this
of
stuff.
that. Yeah, exactly.
Yet. So yeah, skinned it and quartered it and just started cutting it up, and then made another post. Is there anyone out there that needs meat? And of course, nobody knew my backstory.
Yeah.
And then it all started, you know, it just flooded in. There's tons of people that would PM me. They don't want their name on the post. Yep. And it always starts with, I'm so embarrassed to even ask. I'm so embarrassed to even comment. I can't believe I'm doing this.
But I have
But
to.
if you have any extra, and they'll add another comment. You know, I'm 60 years old. I'm disabled. I had 2 legs amputated. I can't even get to the store. I rely on delivery. Or I'm a single mom and I have 2-3 toddlers, and you know, I rent right here in Stanley, and that takes most of my budget. But if you can help, of course I can. Yeah. I'll add you to the list. So that's really how it started.
Gotcha. And this is like coinciding with the government shutdown in October, right?
Right. So that was just before then. Okay. And then the government shutdown happened, and you see thousands of posts on Facebook. You get it from both sides. Yeah. You know, there's people that don't like people that get food stamps, and there's people that rely on it. A lot of people don't have, the majority of them, should I say, don't have a choice. They're on Social Security. They're single moms. They do work, but they can't work that much because they can't afford the daycare. So they're only able to work so many hours when the kids are in school. And then, of course, rent has gone up, electrics have gone up. It's wintertime. We got heat, water bill, sewer bill, phone bill, car insurance, gas for the car to get back and forth. And it just all adds up. So, yeah, when the government shutdown happened and the benefits stopped, although our governor did release, I think it was like 20%. But what are you going to do with like $40?
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you going to buy? A package of steaks are $40.
Yeah.
So, yeah, then there was really a need. That's when it kicked into high gear.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. You saw the need. You felt motivated.
So I moved here in Luray in August. And of course I explore. You go down Main Street and there's a lot of beautiful restaurants, a lot of beautiful shops. But if you actually look deeper than what you see that it's made for tourists. The prices are not reflective to what people make and bring in here.
Yeah.
So a lot of the locals I've seen, they avoid those places because they just can't afford it.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, we do need tourists because they pay a lot of our taxes. A lot of money comes in that benefits the community.
Yeah.
But there is a divide where the lower class people, and I hate saying it like that because we're really just humans.
Yeah.
But the lower class people are just forgotten about. People just turn the cheek and look the other way.
Yeah.
So I definitely think there's things that we could do to fix that and help raise up that part of the community so we can enjoy where we live.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's super evident in the fact that Luray has this beautiful downtown corridor, right? And they've worked hard to make that happen, and I commend them for that. But then if you travel a little bit deeper into Page County and you come to Stanley, which is where we're filming right now, there isn't that. You don't have that downtown corridor. We're kind of forgotten about it. And then if you go even further into Shenandoah, I know that folks in Shenandoah, I hear this all the time, feel totally isolated.
Right.
Way out here in left field, geographically and in terms of like consideration for the things that we do in the county. And I think that we could do more, whether that is with county coordination with local towns or finding ways to partner within towns, and maybe Luray can help Stanley or help Shenandoah, but find a way to get some of that going for
Bridge the gap.
Right. And so I think that paper mache, aspect of tourism is very evident here. Like I said, you travel to Stanley, you travel to Shenandoah, you see that these are the real people who live here,
and who's built the town.
And who built the town, exactly.
And all the jobs are the ones that serve you at these fancy restaurants.
Yeah.
The ones that cater to the people, the ones that clean the Airbnbs that are rented out so people can enjoy this area.
Yep.
Exactly.
And those same Airbnbs, and I'm gonna get off my soapbox after this, but those same Airbnbs, drive the cost of housing up like crazy.
Yes.
And it's like balancing the fact that we get all this transit occupancy tax money with the true realities of what it does to our housing market, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of this in the work that you've done, but the annual average income for a family in this area, dual household, right? Two
a mom and dad
and 2.5 kids, whatever that looks like, is well below the poverty limit, first of all.
I have looked up those numbers.
I knew you had.
And then I also looked up the average cost of a home. And so it's completely out of reach.
Out of reach.
So all those people who are like working 40, 50 hours a week, they don't see any end in sight. They're renting. Yep. They have nothing of their own. Their cars are breaking down. They don't have a new car.
Yep.
There is a huge gap.
Right. For all those reasons and so much more, work like yours is incredibly important and I think valuable I know it's valuable, right, to the people who live here, and hopefully as an example for other communities in rural America that are facing the same problems that we face. You said you felt like God put that on your heart, and earlier you said something you felt like that was kind of corny. I don't think that's corny at all. I think that is amazing, and people like you truly are what keeps rural America going. And I hope that you feel, that pride in doing that it's okay for you to feel that pride in doing that, because your work is really impactful, obviously. How many people to date do you think that
I just crossed over the 200 people mark.
Over 200 people, and today is December 15th.
So yeah, individuals, but a lot of them don't say they have a couple kids or
Yeah.
whatever. So as far as I know, it's
Right.
just over 200, but it could
It
be
could be
more.
more. Yeah.
They could be giving a piece to their neighbor that needs it.
Yep. And I know that happens a lot. I see a lot of people in, my father's neighborhood or my grandparents' neighborhood, trading things back and forth, like the
Exactly.
old-fashioned barter system. I have a neighbor who is a wonderful baker. I give her eggs from my chickens. She always drops something baked off to me every 2 weeks or so, things like that. So
I used to have a friend like that.
there are neighbors
She'd
helping
give me
neighbors.
eggs and I'd make her sourdough bread. This is a great trade.
Well, do you need any eggs? Because I need some sourdough.
We totally can make that happen.
So, all right, cool. So I want to talk a little bit more about the way that you get in touch with people. So do you do all of this through Facebook pretty much, like
Everything's
direct
through
messenger,
Facebook. Yeah.
right? You don't have some fancy website where people are going and submitting a form.
No.
You're just one person with a cell phone, right?
That's right. Of course, yeah. I only use Facebook and the groups and make posts there.
I think that's amazing because, a lot of the times we think, well, I'm sure there's some nonprofit somewhere that's so well equipped to do this, and we do have, nonprofits and organizations like Hunters for the Hungry. I grew up processing deer with my grandfather. He still does it to this day, for paid processing, packaging it up, white paper and styrofoam and all that good stuff. So our job when we were younger was to skin those deer, get them hung, help with cleanup, all that stuff. So very exposed to that side of things. And we used to donate to Hunters for the Hungry. We were a drop-off point for that. And what I find funny is that as many deer as I personally have helped, grind for Hunters for the Hungry, I've never met one person who received that harvest. And I'm not saying that it's not going to a good place. I'm just saying that the harvests that are dropped here in this community, I'm not sure where they go.
The same, and which is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. I've learned my lesson on certain groups that do things, because a lot of times it doesn't reach the community. But
it's funny you say you haven't been using Facebook and jump into this and that's your primary platform. One thing that's interesting, that might be interesting to you and anyone who's listening, is that so in public relations, which is what I got my master's in, public relations and corporate comms, you learn a lot about all the channels, right? You've got Facebook, you've got Instagram, TikTok, in the big lecture halls. And when you read a lot of articles, they'll tell you that Facebook is a suffering medium and that it's the least popular of all of them, which among national averages is true. However, in rural America, I always say this, Facebook is king. It is still the number one utilized platform in rural America.
It's local.
It is local.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I would argue that, and I'm not sponsored by Facebook. I would like to be, but I'm not.
I don't know if you really would like to be.
Right. You're right. So, but the thing is that I think that they by and far have the best model for the types of things that you're doing. Things that require more long form posting would probably be harder to fit what you're doing into a tweet, or whatever they call it now, that it's X. So I love that Facebook is the tool that you're using to do all this good. I just think that that's so interesting because I always find myself trying to remind people that it's not dead yet. Facebook is not dead yet, and they're also evolving. So that is super cool. All right. So I want to talk a little bit more about the nitty gritty of the work because it is not clean work all the time. It is not easy.
No.
So for listeners who have never processed a deer, which is probably most people, this is not like opening up a package of ground beef at Kroger, right? So what does this process look like for you? You get a local hunter or someone in the area who wants to donate their harvest, and tell me what that looks like from that point.
Well, so usually they'll contact me, Facebook. I've even had people, the sheriff's dispatch has my number, Page County Police have my number, and dispatch will even call me. I have a hunter. They don't know how to find you on Facebook. They just read the post. They have a deer they like to donate. I said, great. So I'll call that person. And it comes just field dressed. And then, of course, you have to hang it up. You have to skin it. There's a lot of things that go to it. And then I guess basically, it's not basic, but the next process would be quartering up the deer, getting the back straps, the loins. Another thing why I love doing what I do is when you bring a deer to a facility, a lot of times you're not getting all the meat. I make sure I'm getting all the meat I could possibly get off the deer. Yeah. But you could see the bone, the whole bone.
How long does that take?
It takes a minute. I mean, to skin a deer, I don't know. I've never timed it. Maybe 20, 25 minutes.
Okay.
I'm not a professional butcher. I just know how to do it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the timeline is, but yeah, 20, 25 minutes. And then of course, quartering. That's always fun, you know, breaking at the joints.
Finding the right joints, yeah.
Right. The hindquarters are my favorite because that's where you get a lot of nice roast and steaks and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's where the steak portions would come from, whatever's left over. I usually put it in a bag or in another bowl if I'm going through the whole process.
Right.
Get the front, get the ribs, and then that'll be all ground. What I processed last night for this last batch before Christmas, but I had 5 huge bowls of meat that was ground. So then I grind it. I had Gore's meat processing. They donated beef fat for me. Okay. And I just ran through most of it. So I do have to
gotta get back with them.
Yeah, I have to see if they have any more they'd like to donate. Otherwise, butchers, they want you to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I don't have
the money. This is not a funded initiative, right?
Right. I mean, in the beginning, I was paying for everything. And as a single mom, it was a lot.
I'm sure.
So anyways, I take all those bowls and then I grind it, add the fat into it, and then I'll divide it into sausage. So last night I did country style sausage and then the maple breakfast sausage and then of course hamburger. And then I package those all up, put it in the freezer. So everything's frozen. And then I take it all back out of the freezer, lay it all out on my counters and my tables, and I start dividing it into the bags. So this time around, I'm working on 25 people, but they are families. You know, they have kids, it's elderly, whatever. Right. So I'll have 25 bags, and I put roast, steak, tenderloin, and then I do all the burger, sausage, different kinds of sausage, and put it all in the bag and tie it up so it's easy for them to pick up. Cool. So when I first started, they might get maybe 5 pounds of meat, which isn't a lot. Like I want to do more. Right. Like I felt like I wanted to do more. But now, you probably get 10, 15 pounds each bag, which is quite a bit. And it lasts the family a little bit. Yeah.
That's amazing. And one of the things I love is with Hunters for the Hungry, for example, because just that's an easy example, all of that is ground, to my understanding, unless they've changed their rules. They were not accepting steaks, or they were not accepting loin. It was like the entire donated deer, loins, fish, everything needed to be ground into one, big portion, basically. And we would break it down into 5-pound packs, which is great, right? Like protein is protein, but at the end of the day, like what we were talking about earlier when, you shared some of your experiences, there is an important part of this process where I think gets lost a lot of time, the aspect of dignity. Like you deserve more than just ground meat. Exactly. You deserve more than rotten fruits and vegetables.
Because what are you going to make with it? Hamburger helper?
You deserve more than
that's a stereotype.
Beef knuckles. I grew up poor and I have never in my life eaten a beef knuckle.
Me neither.
It's not that these people are complaining, quote unquote. It's the fact that, they're human beings and we could do more if we wanted to. And the fact that you're putting the time in to make country style sausage, to make maple sausage, and steaks, that's going the extra mile, I think does a lot for that dignity aspect.
I have plans to go further, but I feel the same way. But there has been a few people, the elderly, that they didn't want burger. A lot of people don't like the taste.
Yes, absolutely. And the burger doesn't generally have a stronger taste to it.
Right. Oh, I do stew beef as well.
Yeah.
And she's like, if I could do steak or stew beef, then I could soak it.
Yes.
And I completely understand
and I do that too.
So that's why I make sure I give, a big variety. And then you have kids, single moms that have little toddlers. Sometimes they could tell the taste difference and then they won't eat it.
They won't eat it, yeah.
So yeah, you could take the hamburger and make hamburger helper, whatever, put it in a casserole. You can mask that flavor. But like you said, we're humans. Jesus tells us we need to love each other like he does.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're doing. And you should be able to sit down and have a nice meal, have a steak, with your family and be proud of it.
Yep. I agree. And it's just beautiful. I love it.
Like everybody deserves to feel loved, period, and appreciated, which is another reason why I'm doing this. Because like in my relationship that I ended, I would do all these things. I would fix his car. I would make sure he had a warm meal when he came home, even though he didn't give me any money for bills or groceries. I would do all these things and I just didn't feel appreciated. Yeah. And these people who are at the lowest part of their life appreciate it. Yeah. I've had people pick up and they're crying. when they pick it up. Like, it
Yeah.
means a lot to them. And
Yeah.
that's healing a part of me that was broken.
Yeah. And I identify so much with that. Like, you know, I've been the person that's picking it up and crying, and I've been the person that's dropping it off, you know?
Right.
At the end of the day, I have found that stuff, that doing those things and expecting nothing in return, has done more for me than any therapy or
Exactly.
any, you know, medication. The thing is that there is something very soul healing about helping your neighbors, you know, and like that is honestly the perfect segue into another question that I have for you. Like, you've told us a little bit about the fact that, you know, food insecurity is not a discriminatory thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, there are people from all walks of life that experience food insecurity, and people that you've interacted with through distributing the venison that maybe don't fit that stereotype of what we think of when we think of folks who may be food insecure. So, like, can you talk about that? Has this like challenged any of those stereotypes, you think, for, you know, in the people that you're interacting with?
The thing that I've seen is the people who are blessed have no idea that this is happening. And a lot of the people that I've dealt with, there's a saying, like, you're one paycheck away from being on the street. And it's real. Yeah. And, you know, I've seen, like, there was a couple hunters that got some meat. Like, they're out there every single day. They're just not seeing it. And they want to provide for their family. And they're just not getting that chance to take that shot.
Yeah.
So I've seen, you know, all sorts of walks of life. And I think it's more than one paycheck away. Like, your water bill might come in and might be $50 more than you're expecting. And then you're sitting there going, okay, what do I have to cut back?
Right.
You know,
Or where
can
do I
we get
find
this?
that? Yeah.
Right. So I've seen all sorts of it. I've seen people who have been at the bottom for a long time, and they don't see the light. They don't have the hope. And I hope that my package that I give them gives them a little hope and lets them know that somebody does care about you. Even though I don't know you, we're still brothers and sisters in Christ, I believe.
Yep.
We're supposed to take care of not just our neighbors, anybody you walk across. You know, you meet them for a reason. You see them for a reason, and don't turn the cheek, because we're supposed to do that.
Yeah.
It heals you in a way, and it heals them in a way that we don't understand.
Yep. I agree. And at the end of the day, you know, we talked about a lot today about that feeling of hopelessness, and it's so easy to do because there's so much bad news and there's so much struggle and there's so much insecurity. But, you know, when those people meet someone like you, it's just the fact of knowing that someone out there cares,
Right.
and that they're seen, I think, and that they're not judged when they're seen, you know? And so those three things, when they come together, I think are powerful.
My biggest saying is, the only person that will ever judge, and it's not even a person, is Jesus. It doesn't matter what you're dealing with. It doesn't matter if you're addicted to drugs. It kind of does, but it doesn't matter that, you know, you're not able to pay this bill. Like, it does, wherever you come from, none of that matters. What matters is we're human beings. And that's how we need to see it. We shouldn't be judging people because they're at the bottom, because they're one check away, or people who've been at the bottom, people who are living in a tent, you know, in some park that people don't see, and that those people feel forgotten about out there shivering at night, but we're warm, tucked in our beds.
You know, one of the most interesting aspects of this is, like, communication is my whole thing, you know, like, whether that be interpersonal communication or, you know, my grandmother used to tell me that I would talk to a fence post if it would talk back. And I think that's true.
Yeah.
I love a good conversation, but, like, you know, the communications aspect of this is to me incredibly interesting. You know, how you speak to people, you know, and where you meet people to fulfill their need, you know, in terms of, like, on Facebook or through Messenger, and the dignity aspect, like being embarrassed to ask for help. Like, how do you handle that with respect, you know, and make them feel fulfilled and not ashamed?
Well, I mean, I've been there, so I know what that feels like. And again, everybody's always worried about being judged, and I'm not here to judge anyone. So I would get the messages, really didn't want to message you, or I've been waiting to message you. I can't believe I'm doing this, or I'm in this point in time, but do you have any extra? Or of course, I'll add you to the list. And that's usually all I ever say is, of course, I'll add you to the list. I'll let you know when it's ready.
Yeah.
That's usually how it starts. And then I think when people read that, they realize I'm not judging. I don't ask questions. How many people's in your family? Why do you need it for? You know, do you actually need it? Like
qualification questions,
right.
right?
It's not my job to do that. They're reaching out because they do need it. And I have no opinion on that. If you need it and I have it, I'll help. I think there's a stigma, and I think society has changed people's thoughts about that. I really think that's what it is, because there's a lot of people that are blessed, and I'll say it that way. And I think they kind of get it in their head that, oh, I don't have to worry about that. You know, I'm not the one who needs it. I have everything I need. Someone else will help them, you know, and it shouldn't be that way. The people who are there at the bottom, they feel like nobody sees them. And they're like, oh, well, I got to go to a food pantry, you know, and it really starts eating at them. I know it does, because it's eaten at me before. Like, I actually have to go to a food pantry made for poor people. Everybody is one check away, unless you're very well blessed.
Yes.
You know, your truck could break down. Like my truck just broke down,
or
like right before Christmas, and it, you know, hundreds and thousands of dollars it was going to cost to fix it. But what do? People who are on the bottom, they find a way. They don't expect someone else to do for them.
Yeah.
But sometimes it takes a helping hand, somebody just to reach their hand out and give them a little hope, to give them the drive to make things better.
Yeah, I totally agree.
We mentioned earlier that we've learned a few lessons in creating episode 1 of the Cut a Trail podcast, like making sure your camera is fully charged. Unfortunately, we lost Trisha's video and high quality audio at this point. We covered some really important points about the future of Venison for All in the last few minutes of our conversation, and we're going to walk through them together. I wanted to learn more about the type of equipment that Tricha is currently using to process all her venison and how she's packaging things up for area families. Take a listen at the equipment Tricha currently uses and why it's a bit of an obstacle to scaling up to feed more families in need.
And just to remind the viewers super quick, what kind of equipment are you working with? Do you have hoists? Do you have...
So in the beginning, it was just all my stuff. My kitchen knives, you know, no hunting knives, none of that. So my kitchen knives, which they would either break or I sharpened them too much. My KitchenAid mixer has a meat grinder attachment, and I ended up burning that up. And then I added one on our Amazon gift registry, which someone in the community suggested I do that, and I did. And that burned up real quick. So it's a process. You know, if I had the right equipment, I wouldn't be going through that.
After learning more about the great work Venison for All has been doing in the Valley, I was curious to know what was next for Tricha and the organization. She has big dreams for her operation. Take a listen to what she had to say about what lies ahead in the months and years to come.
So speaking of just the beginning, I want to know, what does the future of this initiative look like? What do you want to see in future seasons? We still have a couple months left of hunting season, right? So for anyone who's listening, we definitely want to invite them to donate, participate, whatever they'd like to do. But in terms of your longer term goals, what does Venison for All look like next year, or maybe 3 years from now?
So given the need, that hasn't ceased yet. There's still a need. I thought long and hard about it. You know, what can I do to keep this going? Because it's needed. So I was thinking about doing a nonprofit, which I don't know much about it, but I think it needs to be in a nonprofit so it's safe, so the community feels safe that whatever's donated is actually going to this mission. I'd like to get a small office space. I know there's a bunch of places that are empty all the time, so maybe I could rent a nice little space during the season with nice stainless steel counters, you know, a really good grinder. So I have a place where I could bring in venison, and there's even been more. I have asked if I want a bear, a couple bears actually, and I'm not going to turn it down. So meat is meat. So I can have a place where I could process. And then, you know, since I'm doing a lot of it myself, I'd like to see if I could get a couple people, teach them how to cut up and process. So it's a quicker
Share that
process.
workload.
Right, share the workload. And I think, you know, the longer I do it, and if the community actually sees that people are being helped, I think the venison, the bear, the squirrels, like, you know, anything off the land, will really start pouring in. So I will need an office space. Next year, I hope to be in that spot. So after the season is over, that's what I'm going to be doing in the months to come is figure out, get educated on how to do the nonprofit, look at spaces, get materials, the nice stainless steel benches that I need, the good knives that we would need. So next year will be guns blazing.
Yeah.
Literally.
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 As I'm sure you've been able to see for yourself, Tricia is one of the sweetest and most genuine people I've had the pleasure to meet and interview. Her authenticity is contagious, and I have a deep respect for not only the great work that she does, but the way that she carries herself. Staying faithful in a mostly faithless world is not easy. Being a light in dark places is not easy. Yet, she burns bright anyway. We want to help Tricia and Venison for All, and we're asking our followers to help too. I asked Tricia what she needed most and what ways our community can support her. Take a listen to what she had to say.
So now, with that being said, in wrapping up, what is the single best way that members of the community who want to get involved can help you? Is that donations? Is that specific equipment? Is that purchasing from that Amazon list? Because I know you still have some season left, and so what do you think? Our followers, what can they do for you?
So right now, I'm at my last push for the last 25 families, and all my materials will be gone.
Okay.
So I will be updating the Amazon list with the butcher paper, the bags, and the materials that I need for that. But if they did want to make donations, there is things, like I said, that I would like to purchase for next year, or even the end of the season if I could get it before then. It makes things a lot easier, like the grinder I just showed you.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Like I ground like 2 deer in like 30 minutes, and it just blew my mind. And I'm like, normally it's like a 2-day process, So I would get things like that, a really nice grinder, cutting boards, things that I could use. So I do monetary donations. In the beginning, it was just to like cover gas for deliveries.
Right.
Because there are people that were on the list that just could not drive, they're disabled one way or another, and they're like in Shenandoah or Newmarket, they're quite a ways away. But if monetary donations has come in, that's what it'd be used for. The grinder, the stainless steel tables, everything in preparation for what I'm doing.
We're asking our followers to please consider donating to Venison for All to help Tricia feed more families, manage the task of processing, and remain operational for years to come. You can give via Venmo or Cash App by sending your donation to @CutATrailGives. You can also visit Venison for All's Amazon wish list, linked on our YouTube channel, and purchase needed supplies directly. Tricia is in need of a more robust meat grinder, which is around $500 to purchase. Remember that 100% of the proceeds will go directly to Venison for All. Thank you for helping build community in Page County and throughout the Shenandoah Valley, and for supporting local families fighting food insecurity.